So today what I'm going to go ahead and go over with y'all is making some Udev rules for persistent device naming for your network devices. A lot of times, let's say if you have like a quad port network card connected to your workstation, what will happen is maybe once in a while you might run into a race condition. This is rare. It usually only happens in certain hardware where maybe your eth1 is now your eth2 and your eth2 is now your eth1. So persistent device naming can come in handy when it comes to stuff like this, especially when you're writing scripts and you have your scripts pointing back at these specific device tree names like eth1, eth2, eth3, and all of a sudden you get a race condition and they switch and your whole script messes up and next thing you know your server gets wiped. So, I mean, which would really suck. But that kind of stuff does happen. It's just kind of rare. So the whole idea is making a UDEV rule so that you can use an identifier such as like a PCI bus. Watch out, Peggy! Don't get too loud now. You can use something like a PCI bus ID, or you can use like a MAC address. So you find an identifier you want to use, and then you make a little UDEV rule for it. And then when you either plug in a cable to that device, or right when that device comes up, or however you want to write the action, uh, now your device will always be named that specific name. Now, we're not going to be doing it with eth0 because eth0 has a lot of kernel and stuff to it. You can get it to always persistently name the device eth0. So instead, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and give it a persistent name of like net zero. That way it's not tied to like the very first one that the kernel has some already internal UDEV scripts for. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is get off this little page. I was kind of looking at some pictures. This is a good picture, I thought. The only thing is we're not doing it for a virtual machine, but I thought it was a good picture explaining it. You know, interface in, MAC address, hits the UDEV rule, spits out the name you want. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal here. Just follow along with me. Let me go ahead and SSH into my virtual machine. And then I'm going to go ahead and do nano, etc, udev, rules. And then you can make up whatever you name you want as long as it has .rules at the end. So I'm going to do net zero .rules like this. Okay, so now we're going to type this real carefully. I'll do another guide on how UDEV works and how you can do the monitoring actions and see the trigger events and so forth. But right now, I'm just going to show you just this basic way to go ahead and do persistent device naming with either the MAC address or the PCI bus ID. So the first thing you're going to want to do here is type in subsystem. And don't get me wrong, UDEV can be kind of confusing because it's a little different from a lot of Linux stuff. Like the way you type, like if you notice, like see how there's like two equal signs here, you have to kind of go over some documentation, read it, play with it, and after you have like a few days of experience, you probably get it down. You can just write your own UDEV scripts. So net. So what you're saying is you're gonna want to watch this subsystem. So you're watching this subsystem here. You put a comma and a space, and you have to get the spacing right and the commas right. It's really annoying. I remember when I first started working with this, it was trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. It was big pain, but it's totally worth it because you can do a whole bunch of cool stuff with this. Um, and then type in action equals quotation, add quotation, comma, space, and then capital ATTR for attribute, and then you're going to want to tell it what attribute are you looking for. So we're going to be looking for, man, my typing sucks today apparently. We're going to be looking for the address attribute. So ADDRESS, and then equals quotation, and now you're going to want to go ahead and get your MAC address. So I'm pretty sure I know how to get your MAC address, but I'll go ahead and show you real quick. I'm just going to go ahead and type in ifconfig-a. The -a just shows any adapters that are in the down state as well. So you can see it's got this ridiculous device naming scheme that they came up with that I don't really like it at all compared to the old one. Anyway, so here we're going to use the MAC address, which is right here. The MAC address is right next to ether. So ether means MAC address. You're going to go ahead and copy it and paste it in there, and then put another quotation. And now you're going to do a comma and a space, and you're going to type capital name, and then equals, and then quotation, and then net 0 quotation. Now you can name it whatever you want. So I'm gonna break this down real quick for y'all. So right here, it's looking at the subsystem net. So that means any of your net subsystem in Linux, it's looking at that. Then it's looking for an action add. So it's looking for whenever a device gets added, and then if a device is getting added under the net subsystem, if it matches the attribute for the address, which is equal to a MAC address, then it's gonna give it this persistent name of net 0. So let me go ahead and exit, save that and exit out of it real quick. Okay, so after you've exited out of that, before we go ahead and proceed to the reboot, this would actually be a good time to go ahead and, if you have like a distro like Debian, you can go to your etc network interfaces folder and go ahead and reconfigure your network adapter. That way, whenever you reboot, it will just pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, but for whatever distro you're using, Arch or whatever, Udev's pretty much on all of them. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do in the interfaces folder is just go ahead and make a new entry. So auto net 0 base net 0 inet dhcp. Exit out of that and then reboot. And if all goes well, I should be able to go ahead and SSH back into the system in a second, and we'll check it out. Okay, we're in. Let's go ahead and check the adapter name. Big-A. Okay, as you can see, the adapter name is net 0, and here's the IP address that it received from the network. So as you can see, it took it. So it's now giving it a persistent device name of net 0 based on the MAC address. So that's it. That's how you do it for the MAC address. Now let's go ahead and move on to the PCI bus ID, which is more of a, I guess, foolproof solution, you'd say, because a lot of people like spoof and change their MAC addresses. The PCI bus ID, it's going to be hard to do anything like that. In fact, I'm not sure if you can. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate back into that net 0 rules file. So nano etc udev rules net 0 rules. Okay, so we're still going to go ahead and keep the action equals add and the subsystem equals net, except what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and change this. I think we're going to go ahead and change this to kernels. I don't know why it has an S there. It made more sense if it was just kernel. But so instead of watching that attribute, now it's going to be watching the kernel messages. And now we're just going to go ahead and put the PCI bus ID in. So in order to get that, I'll show you all what to do real quick. You can do ls PCI -nn v. If you do the v, it'll give it like a more spaced out grouping, so you can like see everything easier. And then if you want to show the kernel modules too, you can add a k. But this is good right here. So we'll just go ahead and do that. So what we're gonna go ahead and do, um, if you look right here, it'll say '05 colon 00.00. Now, I'd say like 90% of the time, there's another 4 zeros on this end. If you're not sure if it's not working, try LSHW. I think there's a way to do it LSPCI too. I'm not 100% sure, but LSHW will show you the full bus ID. So just copy this, and then we're just going to paste it in there. And I'm going to go ahead and add those 4 zeros. So 0000 colon. Okay, looks good to me. Subsystem net action equals add kernels blah blah. One thing about this, it doesn't matter what order this is in. You can switch this stuff around, but it does have to have the space, I believe, and the comma. So this is it right here. So it's watching the net subsystem. It's looking for an add action, and it's watching the kernel for this bus ID right here. And then if it finds it, it's going to go ahead and slap a net 0 name on it. So let's go ahead and reboot again and see if that stays persistent with our net 0 name. Okay, we're in again. So it looks like it worked. So I have config -a, and we still have the net 0. And that rule would have been invalid if it didn't work, and it would have reverted back to eth0 or its original device naming scheme, which is the way they do the new ones, enp blah blah blah. Well, some interfaces, not all interfaces do it like that. Okay, so that's it. So this would be the more thorough proof method. It'd probably work a lot better in most cases because you're actually using a bus ID. So that's it. I hope y'all liked the video. It saved you some time. It saved me a lot of headache. This is really good in preventing race conditions. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll get a race condition, and your eth1 will be eth2, and your eth2 will be eth1, and vice versa. It's usually pretty rare, and it usually happens on certain hardware, but it does happen. This is a good way to get around that, so it won't affect your scripts, and you don't nuke your own server and wake up crying because yeah, your only source of income's gone. So anyway, if you liked the video, like and subscribe. Let me know how y'all think of I'm presenting the information, if it's easy for y'all to understand, or if I still need to add more detail and break it down more. Let me know. I'll be interested to see what you guys have to think about everything. Out.